ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow toast strudels. If you are new to the channel, if you this is your first time ever seeing me, or if you've seen my videos before, this particular video is going to be different. And typically speaking, I like to give a disclaimer, but for this particular one, it's going to be different. Reason being, reason being, it's going to be different is because pardon me off a moment. It's because this one, typically speaking, just to give y'all a little insight, excuse me, within my thought process, is because typically speaking, I try to narrow down my videos to maybe around 10 minutes I possibly can, because I understand that everyone has time to spend throughout the day with videos past 5 minutes. I understand that. But this particular video, I had a change of thought going into this one. Because this one, for me personally, this one I'm just going to take my leisure with. Meaning, here comes the disclaimer here. If you cannot stay for the duration of the video, or you do not care to stay for the duration of this video, then by all means do so. You are free to leave. Okay? No one's putting a gun to your head to stay. You are by all means free to go. Bye. For those who care to stay, please know that, again, I encourage you. Whatever's your thoughts, your opinions on the subject matter we're going to discuss right now, please leave in the comment section below. If you want to give me a Twitter, my Twitter will be in the description box below. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, and my toast strudels, I'm going to get into this particular video. And what I'm going to discuss, as you probably already tell by the title of this video, and you know what, even before I even say anything on that, let me say this. Because as the recording of this video, it is April the 19th, 2021. This is the day that the prosecution and the defense, in regards to the trial case for the murder of George Floyd, had just concluded, maybe about 20 minutes ago. And I've been up since maybe 1, and it's 4 o'clock, about 4 something, past 4 now. So I've been up watching that for about 4 hours. About 4 hours. And in that time span, along with, here, there, seeing the trial in its progression, y'all, it has been a very interesting experience to have. And through it all, certain thoughts I've had accumulating and feel like there's just, I need to get this off my chest. But not just get off my chest, because this is what I want to address for y'all. When it comes to my videos, point blank period, I approach my videos as time capsules. If you watch my first video, I stated in that video that my first video was going to be a time capsule. That when the years go on, however I find myself on YouTube or on social media or anywhere in this world or beyond, you never know, I always want to remind myself where I started. But something I did not specifically say within that video was that every video that I was going to put out was going to be a time capsule. Not just for myself, but for those in the future. Because something I said to Brittany Simon, if you know her, you know her. If you don't, I encourage you to look her up. I think you would find her enjoyable, but that's neither here nor there. But in the conversation I had with her a few weeks ago, I told her that for me, when I make the videos, when I'm creating a content and I put it on there, I don't do it just to create it. I do it because you never know how someone may benefit from however I may approach a subject they have yet to discover, or they have never really had a difference of opinion approach to it. Say maybe 10 years, 100 years, shit. Aliens coming around, they might search the internet, might find my videos enjoyable to watch, might find them useful for whatever reason. You just never know. And so, with that thought process in mind, this particular video, I want to first and foremost say this before I really get into meat of this. My heart, and I sincerely do mean this from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely hope that, again, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how you find yourself within this trial, whether if you're on the prosecution side, regardless if you are on the defense side, regardless, let me make something clear. And I had this conversation with my parents just yesterday. Is at the end of the day, both of these prosecution, both of the prosecution and the defense, at the end of the day, y'all, as lawyers, they're doing their jobs. Please, regardless of how this trial comes out, I would hope that people do not try to put these men in harm's way, because at the end of the day, regardless if you agree with them or not, of how their stance was, what they presented in the courtroom, please understand that they are ultimately doing their jobs, y'all. And because they're doing their jobs, I was in a position listening to them, not them trying to convince me, oh, should I be on the prosecution side? Should I be on the defense side? That wasn't my thought process going to the trial. Because for me personally, the thing is this: I'm not a jury. I'm not on the stand. I'm not involved on a personal with the trial like this. So because of that, I take myself out from saying, oh, he should be guilty. Oh, he should be innocent. That's not my case. Or excuse me, he should be prosecuted or not. I look into this case more so, what can I learn from this experience? And I learned quite a lot. I'm gonna share a few things what I learned in this case. And by all means, like I said before, please comment down below, what did you learn through this case? Because I would like to, not necessarily compare notes, but see what other people might have learned from this. Because I think it's very fascinating. One of the things I learned, now I'm not gonna cover everything, I'm just gonna share a few things that stuck out to me. One of the things that I found very fascinating in the terms of the trial is that, and I'm speaking around with the defense, the way that the defense's approach to Derek Chauvin, to me, made a lot of sense. The angle they were trying to portray made a lot of sense. So I won't say that they approached this matter in a very illogical sense. And in fact, before I go any further into that, I'm gonna share something with y'all. Again, if you didn't watch my first video, I covered my golden rules of how I carry myself on this channel and how I would, of course, encourage y'all to carry yourself within this channel, or not in this channel specifically, but just in general. But I also had a plus one rule into that, and my plus one rule was: let us be objective first, and let us be subjective second. Parentheses, at the best of times, in parentheses. And the reason I say that, y'all, or I added that particular rule, is because to me, in this situation, that's personally my best, or I would encourage anyone, period, who's listening, watching the trial going on, approach to it. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, and this is my stance, not specifically with the trial, not specifically with the situation at hand that, unfortunately unfolded with George Floyd's life being taken. It's about right is right and wrong is wrong. Now, here's the thing: life at the end of the day is not black and white. It has plenty shades of gray. But at the end of the day, the thing is this: you can paint an action that is right with a black brush, with a brush with the paint black, and you call it wrong because of the color you put on it. But the action in itself is still right. Now, the same thing says for wrong. You can deem an action wrong, but if you paint it with a brush with white paint on it, because of the association with the color scheme, you could say it's in the right. But the action in itself is still wrong. Okay? And then here's the thing: you could take white, you take black, you mix it together, you give this different shades of gray. But at the end of the day, just because, regardless of however you paint the action, does not excuse the action in itself. Another example I'm gonna use real quick off the top of my head. Let's take slavery for example. And I'm gonna use American history as an example with regards to slavery. Because I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it now. If you go look at the Constitution, if you go look at the Bill of Rights, and I'm serious, read from top to bottom, and it's well put together. It really is. But think about it like this: how is it that in the signing of, not even the signing of the bill, but the bill itself, our rights being put down there, how is it that as beautifully written as it is, as well put together in terms of the ideals that it should strive for, how is it that even after it was signed, we still had slavery in an official capacity? Let me make something very clear about that. How is it that even at that point in time, we still had slavery in an official capacity, and then when it was supposed to be undone in an official capacity, you still were able, again, within the own context of the writing. I want you, again, go look it up with yourself. I think it is the 13th Amendment involving these, please correct me if I'm wrong here. But it is even in that one that says that when you are devoid of your rights as a citizen, you are essentially prone to be within slavery. Again, look it up yourself. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, by all means. But reason I want to bring that up, y'all, is to say this: when it comes to our values, when it comes to the virtues that we want to not live, excuse me, y'all, we want to uplift for ourselves with any particular society. Like for another example, I'm gonna use for this, the justice system. And again, I learned something very interesting about the justice system. And in fact, I'm gonna give a quick shout out to a particular individual. Sorry, y'all. Looking at some geese. Anyhow, excuse me, y'all. Let's distract there for a minute. But I'm gonna use the excuse the case. I'm gonna use the justice system, or the criminal justice system, excuse me, to be more specific in this. Because you know what's very interesting is, again, during this trial, it had reminded me of a very interesting conversation I had back in college with an old high school friend of mine, because he was originally wanting to be a lawyer, or he wanted to do something in regards to criminal justice, but I think it was to be a lawyer. And one day we had a conversation. He told me that he had a change of heart. And I asked him, well, why is that? And from there, I was telling him how, from my perspective, how in my mind, how the justice system works and when it doesn't work. And you know what was intriguing in the conversation, y'all, is that he definitely changed my perspective of it forever the better. Because he reminded me of something very interesting, that when it comes to criminal justice, or when it comes to the courtroom, the thing is this: it's not necessarily about justice. It's not necessarily about doing what's right. It's about, at the end of the day, people got to do their jobs. At the end of the day, the courts are not there to provide justice 24/7. That's not its place. At the end of the day, it's a tool for people to utilize in sticky situations. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And sometimes the results that we get from that, we can deem justice, and other times we don't. But let's not get it misconstrued for what it is. And from that conversation, it made me really reevaluate my perception of criminal justice, or even the concept of justice as a whole. And like I said, this was happening a few years ago. I'll probably say, how many years? Maybe about 5 years ago. I think I want to say 5 years ago. We had this conversation. And ever since that day, I look at the proceedings within trials, if they are publicized or not, in a different fashion. Because at this point, for me, y'all, and like I said, I had this conversation with my parents. As far as I'm personally concerned, I've had this conversation with other people, is at this point, I'm not necessarily looking for quote unquote justice within Floyd's case. That's not my thing. Because what will happen will happen. For me personally, my stance is this: all I would ask out of this trial The only thing I would ever ask in any trial, to be more specific, is just tell me the truth. That's it. I just want truth. I just want to make sure we have a clear understanding of what we're dealing with. For example, during the trial, the defense had certain witnesses come to the stand, certain people involved with the police training, and showcase different texts discussing about their training. Where did that training come from? How it's supposed to be applied? Within reason, are the different factors they're supposed to apply these tactics or these particular what would you say, maneuverments, if you want to go there, maneuvers. Excuse me. And again, like I said, y'all, it was very intriguing because it made me think to myself like this. It made me think to myself, a moment, that interesting enough, and I'm pretty sure it is public knowledge that can be accessed to the public, but it intrigues me that if it wasn't for the unfortunate circumstance for George Floyd, is it possible that this information, especially in their own city, will have not been publicized for people to know about? Because here's my thing. If that is how the officers within Minnesota or Minneapolis is supposed to conduct themselves within that training, then what I would think would be the most valuable outcome within implementing that kind of training within your police force is also acknowledge the fact that this is information that should be publicized for the public to understand. Because here's the thing, if I know what you're going to do or what it should be your most appropriate response within a particular circumstance, then me as a citizen, me as a civilian, have a better understanding. But that does not necessarily mean that everything's going to go according to a certain plan necessarily, but you have a better understanding of what the circumstances are supposed to be. And like I said, y'all, pay close attention to the words that are being used. Think about the tone of voice they're applying within a trial. I just find it very interesting. And the reason why I'm saying that, y'all, is because after, again, like I just said, listening to the defense and listen to their closing statements and listening to the prosecution's rebuttal, it's interesting to me personally that for the defense, within reason, took so long for theirs versus the prosecution. Is the thing is this: at the end of the day, when it comes to the trial, one side is saying because of all these other contributing factors, you cannot pin, unfortunately, George Floyd's death on a particular individual or one specific cause necessarily. Where the other one is saying yes, there was a catalyst to these actions. And this is my thing. Regardless, again, whichever you are on this side, pay close attention to what they're saying, pay close attention to how they conduct themselves with the witnesses, pay very close attention because you're going to learn something. And now this gets to my final thing about this, y'all. The core root of really what this video is going to be about is listen, don't hear what they're saying, really listen to what they're saying, listen to what's being said, listen to what's being done, learn, assess, use your cognitive processing, aka put your thinking cap on, and from there appropriately or properly digest the information that's being presented to you with a grain of salt, and from there extract what you need from it, not what you want, what you need within your life. And the third thing right here, apply. That's the biggest takeaway I would encourage anyone who's watching the trial, and anyone who's even looking at it from afar. Learn, excuse me, listen, learn, and apply. Because regardless of what comes out of this, y'all, regardless of whatever the jury decides on, be it if he is guilty or non guilty. The thing is this: you best believe hell is gonna hell is gonna break loose, one way or another. And I sincerely want to make sure this is understood. My heart, again, like I said, y'all, my heart goes out for every single person within that city. Again, regardless of how you find yourself in that conversation, regardless of how you find yourself in the conflict, my heart sincerely goes out for every single one of y'all. And just make sure I don't forget about this. My personally, my best advice I can give anyone, period, in a circumstance like these, not specifically to the trial, but just in circumstances like these, the best advice I can honestly give anybody, if you would care to listen to me on this, is sit your ass at the house. And for some of y'all hard headed, I'm gonna say my one more time. Fuck that. I'm gonna say it 4 more times. Sit your ass at the house. Sit your ass at the house. Sit your ass at the house. Please. Sit that ass at the motherfucking house. Reason I'm saying that, y'all, 4 times. Because again, some people are hard headed. Because here's the thing. And again, this is my perspective. You best fucking believe, with all the forces that are going over there, with our national troops, with the police, all that barbed wire, all that, you best believe they're preparing for the reaction from this. And my thing is this: they have a reason to do so. But here's the thing: you best believe there's someone in the background who wants you to react the way they want you to react. You best believe that. See, this is how I conduct myself with people, y'all. And I've told my father this several times before, is that I like to approach people from the perspective of that I'm conducting with a rational human being, a rational adult on top of that. But unfortunately, y'all, not everyone's rational, especially they're not rational adults at the best of times. And because of that, what I have to tend to remind myself is this: people pocket from that because it's by human psychology. See, I want you always to remember this, y'all. The information in terms of studies, in terms of the sciences, in terms of professions, you best believe someone has their hands in those pockets before they're deducted, or excuse me, when they are described and put out to the public. You best believe they have those experts. They fund those people to give them that information, to do those research. So here's the thing. What I'm trying to get at here is this: you best believe there's someone in the background who's waiting, who's looking forward to the aftermath of this. Because here's the thing: they benefit from the chaos, they benefit from the discourse or the disorder that is going to follow suit. So there's a reason why I say sit your ass at the house, is because here's the thing: I know that if this happened here in Mississippi, where I'm currently at, if this happened to someone like my brothers or even my sister, in fact, if something like this was to happen to one of my nephews, and I bear in mind, y'all, they're babies, born my niece, better yet, she's 16 years old. If something happened like this to them, I know for a fact that me personally, I can't speak for everyone, but I know for me personally, regardless of how the trial would come out, I would have already made peace with the fact that regardless of what comes out of it, I, at the end of the day, know that I just want the truth. I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to apply. But I know that if I walk outside that door, you probably can't see it, but if I walk outside that door, I'm not coming back in. I know for me, I ain't coming back in. Hmm. I know that for me. I know that for me. And here's the thing: you best believe someone is counting on me to come out that door. and act like a plump ass fool with no kind of common sense and allow myself to let my emotions ride out and do what I want to do, not what I need to do. You best believe that. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, total truth, I'm going to finish the video off on this. Give me a moment. I made my thoughts on this. At the end of the day, if we're supposed to strive for higher values, if we're supposed to be a nation of freedoms, of liberties, of justice, if we cannot reciprocate that to our own citizens, regardless of their background, regardless of where they're coming, where they were going, regardless of their age, their creed, their nationality, their ethnicity, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sex, regardless of all these factors, and we're supposed to be a nation, and I'm talking about here in America, if we're supposed to be a nation of liberties, if we're supposed to be a nation of freedom, and we're supposed to be a nation of justice, again, y'all, and that cannot be reciprocated to the citizens of this country, regardless if you are born here or not, regardless of your heritage, your roots in this country, if it cannot be done and it cannot be shown to the citizens, what does that do for us? How do you think that strengthens or demolishes the relationship between us as individuals? And then on top of that, different professions in life. Because I truly feel, and I sincerely mean this, I feel truly bad for every officer right now. Or more specifically, I feel bad for every officer in the future or upcoming, those in training right now. Because just imagine what their thought process got to go through this. See, at the end of the day, y'all, regardless of how you find yourself at the trial, at the end of the day, it's not about the trial in itself that I think people are going to have an issue with going in the future. It's about what you allow the powers that be to get away with. Because at the end of the day, y'all, you can respect the position of what an officer does, but you don't respect the individual. Because here's the thing, I understand what a police officer can go through. Or excuse me, I understand the position that someone can fill into those shoes, what they go through on a day-to-day basis. I understand me as a regular civilian, I don't put my life in jeopardy every day for others like that. I know I don't. But here's the thing. Regardless of the situation, if you're not up to par to fulfill that role, step away. Because now you're jeopardizing your life, you're jeopardizing the lives of your fellow citizens. You're jeopardizing just life in general. And let me make something clear. I'm by no means saying that I'm the judge, the jury, and the executioner, but the same goes for you. If there's anyone in law enforcement or you have any family in law enforcement, show them this video. Because I want to make something very clear for y'all if you're listening to this, if you're watching this. I understand that I appreciate your service. I truly do. And let me make something clear. I'm not strictly just talking now here in America. I'm talking about anywhere in the world. I truly appreciate you because you are putting yourself in a position where your life can be taken in the service of your countrymen. But at the end of the day, just because you are in a position to sacrifice does not mean you should justify every other instance where you could have been sacrificed. Don't make excuses for not holding a position that at the end of the day you put yourself into. No one ever caught the gun in your head and say you had to be in the service. Now, granted, hold up, because I will take heed of this. Are there certain institutions in different places in the world that say, hey, you have to be a part of the military? Or you have to be a part of this particular program? Pardon me, y'all. I understand that it's the case for certain places in the world, and I'm not excusing that. But I'm saying that at the end of the day, You still have your autonomy. At the end of the day, you are still capable of your own decision making. And you are still accountable for the rules that be. You are still accountable for your actions. You're not free to do whatever you believe is justifiable for you to do in that instance. No, sorry, Bob. You are not free of consequences. You are not free to do whatever you want to do because you have quote jurisdiction. Because let me make something very clear. And like I said, y'all, I'm gonna end the video soon on this. Because in the midst of me talking about this, it reminds me of a conversation I had with one of my neighbors who's a police chief. He lives down the street from me. And this was a few years ago. And we were having a bit of a conversation in regards to people who have their phones out, putting it in front of the police, being disorderly or so along that lines, and how he deals with it on a day-to-day basis. And I told him this, or excuse me, he said something along the lines of, at the end of the day, us as officers, we don't know who we're approaching when we go into those situations. We don't know who we might stop at a traffic light, or we might pull over for whatever reason. And I say that's very true. That is true. At the end of the day, you don't know who you're going to deal with. But guess what? The same thing applies for us as citizens. We don't know who's behind that badge. See, I can acknowledge that you having that badge in the position that that badge comes with. But at the end of the day, you're a stranger to me as well. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you come from. I don't know your thought process. Because guess what? Just as you can be in fear of your life, I can be in fear of my life. So here's the funny thing. And that's why I brought up about being right is right and wrong is wrong, y'all. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, if you are in danger and you have essentially the excuses, or you are more pressed to be lenient towards certain actions that you may do in response to your life being possibly at risk. Me as a citizen, if you're the one who's going to be at risk of my life, who do I call? If there are other officers on the scene and I'm looking at you and you're a direct threat to my life, can I call upon your other officers to say, hey, can you please get him? I'm in fear of my life. Are they going to pull him aside? Or is he going to pull her aside? Because I'm going to leave something with y'all on this. And again, please give me in the conversation if you want to agree to disagree on me on this. But at the end of the day, y'all, I want to make something very clear. I'm not trying to paint officers with a broad stroke. I'm trying to make sure there's an understanding within the reality that we ultimately have to confide with. There are plenty of officers who are not bad. Period. But there's plenty that are not good that stay within those places, within their respected positions. There's not a lot of them. So always remember this. There are plenty of cops in this world who are by no means bad. But there are plenty who are good, they don't stay in too long. So we deal with a lot of mediocre cops. Not good, but they're not bad. They're alright. But let me make something clear. It is the individual that I'm speaking to about that. Not the officer in terms of what their position calls for. I'm talking about the individual who upholds that. See, here's the thing. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be off. For better or for worse, y'all, for better or for worse, regardless of whatever comes into the future, always know that at the end of the day, it's still our choices that we have to live with the consequences that follow. Our children are the ones who have to suffer the consequences of our actions. They're children's children. And they'll keep going and they'll keep going and they'll keep going until one day comes, we all got to acknowledge something's got to change. It's ultimately going to be us to decide if we're going to make that change and how much of a sacrifice we have to make to get that change going. Because if we continue to make these excuses, y'all, if we continue to make justification after justification for needless, foolish actions that take the lives of those who you never know how they would have impacted people's lives. And here's the thing, I don't know when everyone's day is going to come. I don't. But then here's what I would advocate for. If that anyone's day comes anytime soon, I would hope that they do not perish or leave this world in such a state, in such a disgusting state as what Mr. Floyd went through, or Breonna Taylor, and many others that unfortunately, y'all, I really don't have the energy to call their names. But you know who they are. Not just in this country, but all over the world. And not just in this century, but go all the way back to the beginning if you want to. So I'll leave y'all with this. It's never too late to do the right thing. But understand that to do the right thing, it's got to cost something. If you ain't willing to pay that price, don't lie to yourself. Be honest with yourself. Tell the truth. Because you know something my mother told me just yesterday? And a great reminder that the truth will set you free. I'll leave y'all with that. I'll see y'all next time. Peace, and I love you.